So, Austin, what level are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about Tree Zone 4.
Alright, what kind of platforming challenges does this stage have?
Lots of ground-based enemies. You've got a lot of little worms walking on the ground. You do have to dodge some bees that fly at you. So you've got some aerial enemies on this stage. And these guys that come down from the ceiling that kind of act as Mario Land 2's version of the thwomps, the traditional thwomps. So you have to watch out for those. Not a whole lot else, actually. Not really any spikes or anything that I can think of. Not many anyway. And that's pretty much it. It's a fairly straightforward level, I think. Relatively flat compared to some other stages. No endless pits.
Right. Yeah, there's no bottomless pits and there's no moving platforms. So, it is a pretty enemy-centric level.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
And did you notice anything weird about the bees?
Not that I can remember off the top of my head.
Okay, some of the bees have, like, skulls for heads, which will only die if you spin jump on them.
Ah, okay. I think I actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I think last time I played through it, when I was streaming this game a while back, and I think I was getting hit by them, and I couldn't figure out why. I think I was just hopping on their heads and it wasn't working, but I probably wasn't spin jumping because I wasn't using that ability much.
Yeah, it's weird. Otherwise, they act as, they're like dry bones where they'll fall to the floor and then come back to life.
Yeah, okay.
You also mentioned that there are kind of thwompish bees.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Between the bees that are kind of like boos and kind of like dry bones and the bees that are like thwomps, it almost feels like a fortress.
It does, actually, a little bit.
You even have those spiky enemies that you can't jump on.
Yep.
And I'm not even sure if you can fireball them or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Did you ever explore the bottom bonus area towards the middle of the level?
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. It's a little reminiscent, actually, of some of the Mario World bonus levels where you have to hit the, you've got, like, these platforms that you can jump through, but with coin blocks, interspersed throughout them. And there's some power-ups you can get. There's a star on the right-hand side you can pick up, and then there's also either a mushroom or a fire flower, depending on how powered up you are on the left-hand side. But you have to be careful, because there's some worms walking between the platforms. And that's actually a fun little section, honestly. Lots of coins and question blocks.
I always had trouble getting that star out and actually getting the one-up with it.
Yeah, that would be tricky. It looks like you'd have to do that pretty much perfectly, because you'd have to hit a couple of the enemies. Or I think the star's at the top. So you'd only be able to hit one enemy, and then you'd have to go back up into the... it's a little confusing. Go up the pipes, then go back down, and come back. I haven't really tried to get the one up personally, but I think I probably just grabbed the star and just went back up to the top and just kept running right. I was like, I've already got 30 lives. Who cares? What I found interesting, I actually watched somebody else's playthrough prior to doing this, and at the very end you've got two rows of question mark blocks. One that looks like you can only hit when you're small Mario, and then one that's a little bit higher that you can just jump into.
Right.
And what I actually didn't know this, and I probably should have watched some videos before doing my own playthrough, but you can hit coin blocks from the top with a spin jump. And so this guy was just basically hitting both sets of blocks at the same time by using a spin jump, and I thought that was neat.
Yeah, that's so fun, but that's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
There's also, the only way to get the bell at the end is by finding a hidden block.
Yep, Yep, hidden block at the end.
How would you describe the overall flow of the level?
I'd say it's very stop and go. If you want to try to get through the level relatively safe. I think casual players are going to have to play it stop and go, you know, with the hovering bees on the second room to the thwomp-like enemies in the third room. So it's the kind of thing where I think you really have to take it relatively slow. It's not a level that's conducive to, you know, just constantly running and jumping at the right times. I'm sure you can speedrun this like crazy, but I'm not a speedrunner, so I would say most players are going to have to... It's going to have a very much a stop and go kind of flow to it, if we're talking about survival anyway.
Yeah. It's interesting. I played through this level a couple of times, and I always had trouble consistently getting under those thwomp bees while running, whereas typically I feel like thwomps are tuned so that you can run under them.
Exactly. In, you know, the other Super Mario Brothers games, typically if you're at, you know, high to top speed, you can just get right past the thwomps without stopping. But your momentum in Mario Land 2 doesn't seem to be nearly as fast as it is in other Mario games. And I think that's, you know, not being able to run straight through those, you know, thwomp bees is a testament to that. Bee thwomps? I don't even know what you want to call them. They probably have an actual name, but the thwomps, we'll call them that. No.
Thwasps. Something else that adds to the stop and go is that there's a lot of like jagged platforms on the floor, and there's a lot of especially in that one room towards the beginning, there's a lot of floating question mark blocks that kind of litter your path.
Yep.
What would you say is the theme for this level?
Well, I think with this one it's pretty obvious. I mean, beehive. And I don't know if you want how philosophical you want me to get with this question. But no, definitely, I mean, it's just straight up beehive. I mean, it shows it as such on the map, and you've got the you know, the honeycomb in the background, and another interesting wall texture in the, like, you know, the outer walls that you can't go through.
Right.
You know, it's got a different texture than what you see throughout the rest of the game, which is neat. I like the setup of the level. You know, a lot of levels are just kind of open, and you see some nice, you know, background, you know, trees or hills or whatever. And this is just definitely a good contrast, you know, to the rest of the game. I like the you know, the hexagonal beehive pattern in the background and so forth. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
What about you? What do you have to say?
Bees are a very naturally scary bug. Even though, like, getting stung doesn't hurt that much. You know, just fears built up from childhood, so freaks me out every time I see a bee flying towards me, and there's a lot of those in this level. So that's mostly what I think about.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes total sense. I mean, I get a little freaked out when there's bees around me. More so like wasps and things like that, you know, like the bigger types of bees, basically. Little, you know, just honeybees don't bother me too much. They are tiny, and you're right, it doesn't hurt that much. But, you know, the bigger ones, they really creep me out. So
at least there's no king zing or honey to climb.
Yeah, right.